ranking video, this time for quarter 2 of 2025 for Rivals of Aether 2. Now this was a pretty interesting season. I feel like 2025 has been a little bit more mainstream. 2024 kind of felt weird with a lot of okay, is this game actually out yet? Technically, even though a lot of people have been playing it for a while, all that kind of stuff. I feel like it's becoming a pretty good meta from what I've seen. Here are some of the main tournaments. I watched Patchwork pretty closely, but come to realize that it wasn't super stacked. Smash Camp, despite the name, had a pretty strong Rivals of Aether 2 showing. And Combo Breaker, pretty stacked. CEO, crazy. Had a ton of. I think Combo Breaker technically had more entrants, so CEO was a wild event. And then Full Bloom, and some Momocon, also up there too. Full Bloom being mainly a melee event, and Momocon being no melee, only ultimate in other games as well. Which Momocon and Combo Breaker were the same weekend, I think. So I think I kind of crossed over a little bit. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into the bottom tier. This was, I'll be honest, I don't know every single little thing that extensively with all these players. There's a lot going on. Top of this tier, I had Pikmon, which I believe is a PM player. I usually start from the bottom and go to the top. Kendrick had a pretty strong run at Smash Camp. A few other players here and there. One Outcast, I believe, is returning from last time. Sego, I think their tag is Sego Ahmet now. Really good. Rivals 1 Olympia, so now that Rivals 2 now has Olympia. Also really good Nasty player, I'm pretty sure. Now that Olympia's out, I think started to do, at least was seeded high and didn't do amazing, but did fine. Had a cake win back in Rivals 1, so it's okay, the expectations are pretty high. Durai did okay. Iota had a really good run at Hitfall the last quarter, didn't quite do as well, but still doing pretty well. A former Ridley from NBVA for Ultimate, and still doing pretty good in that region. Hyperflame also originating NBVA, being a Project M player, traveling some more, doing alright. Nard and Solar Beam staying more in region, doing alright. Rizul is an Australian, New Zealand, I mixed up the flags, player, and didn't really have the chance. Same with Mr. R, being from Europe. Neither of them had a super huge chance, but they're kind of running the region, their respective regions, excuse me. So I figured it makes sense to keep them in here. J-Mac had a pretty good run at Patchwork, I believe beating Lucius. Bullets, which I'm not including Gommel. Some things will be affected. Bullets, Canada, Edelus did pretty good. I'm seeing a lot of these other players, or I was I didn't really know they were much of a thing. You see these names everywhere. They enter a lot. Evil Nardwar, Gengar, Plastic Dinos. HKP had some surprisingly good in-region performances. But yeah, overall, I don't know a ton about every one of these players, but a lot of them are fine, and it's difficult to kind of zoom out and focus on other players besides the top few, but there's some interesting stuff there. And I think a lot of people, your local scenes, none of them are going to be top 10 anytime soon. So getting to this point is a pretty cool achievement in of itself. B tier. Forgot to do that. This is bigger than I thought it would be. There's some players, a lot of the Fire Lions here, which you wouldn't necessarily switch, especially Stango and Beastly, both being pretty solidly top 7. Last time I think I had them, at least top 10. Doing you wouldn't necessarily expect them to be down here, but again, I've said in other ones, you don't necessarily expect players to base their 3-month season around doing better. But yeah, I'll kind of go through bottom to top. Sinbad, I believe a Melee Sheik in Florida. Not fully sure, but had a pretty good local record, or at least like in region. Um, it's like, you know what? Like, I mentioned CEO, really big Florida event, mainly for traditional fighting games, but also has moderate melee support, decently big um, ultimate support, and then Rivals 2 also got some stuff there. And so if a player in region does well, even at the major of the region or whatever, it kind of helps everyone look better. And so I think because of other players doing well, Sinbad kind of got a buff. Sago, I believe, a Luigi main from the Midwest, had a pretty good combo breaker run. Um, yeah, I think Melee PM Luigi. Doing pretty good. Sandstorm. I think the GOAT of Brawlhalla. I don't know them super well, but one of the best Brawlhalla players of all time. Played a little bit Ultimate, and now trying out Rivals 2. And had a good showing. Made some upsets. I think I have some of them on hand. ZB, Cheesy Potato, and Dingo were some of the wins that Sandstorm got. Pretty good. Dakpo, again, another player with an important Gommel run, but I'm not including Gommel. I'm just doing up to June 30th. But still pretty good from what I can see. I think Dakpo was a Smash 4 player. Why are you mixing them up? Lucius, Juno, and Sinbad. Decently good. Hampolo attended a lot from what I saw. Got a win on Max, which was I had them as Toothbrush last time, and Switch. That's really good. Kind of had a lot of losses, but I believe Tri-State. That's where Max and Switch are both originating in. So Tri-State, they have a lot of stuff. I think it's Fusion, and there's going to be a lot of traded sets there, just with the like the nature of having consistent events. More people have the opportunity to win and lose. BioVerb, shout outs. Rivals 1, Raster, my inspiration. Not kind of middle of the road again. Not incredible, but pretty consistent against some players. Kind of farmed Sego a little bit. Not entirely, but had a winning record. Got some other decent wins, and kind of a gatekeeper. Lucius, I think everyone has such high expectations for Lucius after a really strong 2024, but last season not that great. This season not that great either. At least compared to what we know Lucius is capable of. Got a Switch win. Cheesy Potato, Nard, Sego. Like, that's good. That's better than last season, I believe, last 3 months. But still not what, like, really comparing to 2024 in, like, the early beta and I think Supernova as well. Not as much as Lucius has done in the past. Cheesy Potato got Switch win, Hampolo, 4 of them, I believe. Max and Sego, you know, Sego kind of gave some wins, and they make other people look good because of the high seeding and high prestige. But Sego hasn't necessarily proved that much. But still, I consider that to be a good win. Yeah, consistent player. I think benefited from some good wins, and Crag representation. Gotta see it. Gotta love it. Mystery Soul, one of the few fleets still out there. I think the nerfs kind of concern people, but Mystery Soul also a ultimate Incineroar? I'm not entirely sure. But got some wins on a bunch of players. Bullets, Evil Nardwar, Pikmon, Maya, Gengar, a lot of those C tier 1 outcasts, stuff like that. Has a Sofilo win, and some other, also has a Dan Fernacey win. You can't ignore that. Sofilo win's pretty good, as we'll go over later. Not to spoil too much, but yeah. Max again had a really good win, mainly due to beating Cake at Hitfall, but also just did pretty well overall, was one of the best in Tri-State. Has a Switch win, Nard, Yoda Cage, Hampolo, etc. Which Yoda Cage potentially could have been a C tier. A really strong Bowser Jr. For, Ultimate. Um, so that's a decent win. Has some losses here and there. I think just naturally kind of an inconsistent player. Also attends a lot, so that'll happen. But Switch win and a pretty good wins in a region. That's never gonna be bad for you to have. Speaking of Switch, Wolf, Project M, my inspiration as well. So it's cool to see Switch and BioWare both competing in the same game. They both really inspired me when I was younger, playing those other games. Switch had a lot of wins in region. Not quite what we've seen from Switch. Could arguably be lower in this tier. But sometimes when you're playing players below your caliber, it's hard to look good there. So if you're not playing people better than you, and you're always a higher seed, and sometimes it can be like, okay, they did good against you, but you can still beat them, but it doesn't really matter even if you have a winning record. That'll apply some for some of the other players, but yeah, I think Switch is still doing all right. Again, I don't think I attended that much of like the big tournaments because attended Genesis and Hitfall, I'm pretty sure, and then attended Gommel, if I recall correctly, which is not on here. But Beastly doing really well in Ultimate. Kind of fell off a little bit in Rivals. Patchwork did really well in both Ultimate and Rivals 2, but Rivals 2 didn't have a ton of players. It was like Cake, Beastly, and then a bunch of other players. Because like Lucius didn't do that well compared to what we know, and it was kind of just like, okay, Beastly's cleaning up everyone, and then Cake's being Beastly. That's how it goes. Did all right. Went to some smaller tournaments and had some losses, but still did very good. Beat some solid players like Mars, Terry, J-Mac, etc. Which Terry also had a decent run at Patchwork. Potentially could have been a C tier. I think that would probably be fair. But yeah, not much surprise. I mean, losing to Cake, that's not bad for anyone in the world, frankly. Then we have Vibe. I think I added a C tier kind of on a whim last time. Not combo breaker, Full Bloom, another Midwest event. One Full Bloom, which wasn't super stacked, and it was like, okay, had like 60 entrants or something. It's all right, but didn't stop there. Had a Stango win, BioBurb, Lucius, Stro, pretty solid run. So one of the better Clarins at it right now. ZB, probably the most well-known Crag player, if I had to guess. Did well, got Vibe, Hyperflame, CPU, Sinbad, Dakpo. A lot of solid wins there. Another kind of one of those gatekeepers. And then we have Stango. Had a similar run to a lot of these other players. These were just like, okay, I think attended Stango being a Melee PM player from Pennsylvania, attended CEO and did all right. Didn't do super well because some other players had some breakout performances, and about to get into some of them. Now Spargo being the bottom of this tier is still good, better than some other players that I didn't quite give that next jump up. Beat Beastly twice at a Mexican event, I believe. I think like Climb Hazard or something. Which I probably could have included in the list, but it was kind of just Spargo and Beastly. So Spargo did that. That's the main thing that Spargo did that season, which is good. 2 Beastly wins. It's no fluke. You did it twice. That's good, but I think not quite enough to go up in this tier. Ant. one of the players that really came out of nowhere, really surprised a lot of people. Uh, Rando player had an incredible run at CEO. Uh, Inconsistent player in region. Florida has a lot of parity, I believe. Had a losing record to Sinbad, or at least a few losses. I don't know if losing record, but so has some losses, but beat Marlin, Stango, Caro, Applewiz, Sinbad, Acorn. Pretty good. Obviously, those first two mean a lot. You get the Marlin win, who I thought was potentially number one, definitely number three for the past 3 months, and is still very, very good. I think that, and then also getting a Stango win on top of that. You didn't just get one upset and then win 0-2 after that. Like got some good wins and had a solid top eight showing at CEO. A very like over I think like 160, 180 entrants and a lot of good players. Florida got some talent there and good stuff to Ant. Next person, Ron Gunshoe, a Canada Clarin that people are gassing up, thinking is really good. I believe played some Project M in the past. Ron Gunshoe also has a Marlin win. Yeah, that's the main thing. Kind of farmed a lot of people in region. Dropped a couple sets here and there, but had I think better consistency in region. So I think slightly being above Ants. And has a lot of wins. I think you could maybe argue that the Stango win should make Ant be higher, but I think that like dropping a lot of sets to people um, to in region kind of it doesn't make it look quite as good. It makes the region look better, but not necessarily the individual. Elkies, one of the Rivals One players still doing it. Gotta give a lot of respect there. Rivals One, it's just so clean. I was watching an old video and I was like Rivals Two, I like it, but like the polish of 10 years versus like starting fresh with 3D models, like man. And Elke's big props there. A solid player, getting 2 wins on Sofilo, ZB, Ant, Sandstorm, Rakai, Plastic Dinos, Potatoes. Uh, had some losses. Lost to some players here and there, like Cabbage, Zeoarc, Stro, Ion. Also lost to Cake and Marlin, losing record to Sofilo, which is fine. But pretty solid. I think Sofilo, which I'll get into in a little bit, difficult to kind of figure out. But Elkies was pretty consistent. Got to give a lot of credit. Did a good job. Ion, a Crag main, being infamous for making Leffen mad from losing to the Crag, but played Olympia more. I think had went Olympia at Smash Camp in like April. Went Olympia mainly and got second place. Did had a solid showing. Took some games off of Cake there. Got some good wins. The full list of wins was 5 wins on Sofilo, 2 on ZB, Elkies, Mystery Soul, and then keeps going from there. That's good. Traded sets with Sofilo, I think technically was positive, but I think that ZB being the next good win is good. But again, kind of like dropped some sets here and there, but did pretty solidly. I think makes them be 5th for the season. It's pretty good. Again, the in-region stuff. Sometimes people like with locals, it's hard to like you don't want to overinflate the value there. If someone's like changing characters, which is their fault if they just whatever they decide to go. But sometimes you don't want to like value the in-region results more than everything else. But still, I think Ion has a solid showing here. Potentially could be argued to be above this next player, Marlin. But I think it's like okay, like I think Marlin still had a very strong season. Very consistent, beating Rangunshu, Elkies, Dakpo, Terry. Lost to Rangunshu. Beat Rangunshu twice, lost once. I believe I forget. Like they played and Marlin won the event, but Rangunshu took a set. I forget if it was a reset or if it was Rangunshu won in winners and Marlin came back and like won 2 sets in a row. I forget. But either way, Marlin did drop a set to Rangunshu, but still won twice. I think that's like, okay, Rangunshu should be considered to be a pretty good player for doing that. So Marlin having a 2-1 record on Rangunshu is better than Rangunshu having that one record on Marlin. You can't just cherry pick and say Rangunshu had a better season than Marlin. Marlin still beat Rangunshu, like is up 2-1. And that was Rangunshu's main win for the season. Dropped 2 sets to Sofilo and Ants. Only attended CEO from like the big stuff. That was the only event that had both Cake and Marlin, and they didn't play. That was surprising. You kind of expect them to play whenever both of them are there. But yeah, Sofilo and Ant prevented that. I already talked about Ant. I'll have to get into the next part. Now, the first, I guess technically last, if you go from right to left, this player you could argue maybe shouldn't be up there, but I think there's merit to it. We have a top 3, 1 returning, 1 absent. Plup didn't enter anything, which a few players like mainly just enter Genesis and we haven't seen. 2 players that I believe in C tier. Maybe could have been B tier, but didn't see much from them. But both did very well. B-Bats. A tri-state, I believe New Jersey. Melee Peach. Pretty good results overall. I think was like top 50 in Melee. Good stuff. Has a Cake win. One of the few players to do that. Also beat Max, or Toothbrush, twice. Vibe. 4 Hampolo wins. Yoda Cage, Solar Beam, Sago, Nard, a ton. And I think only really lost to Cake. Very consistent in region, in tri-state. Has a Cake win. Very good. I think that it's tough because it doesn't necessarily feel equal to some, like the other 2 in this tier, but I think should be given a decent amount of merit. And it's like, okay, do you need so many different tiers to show how far? Like, I think you can realistically, maybe the third isn't quite as strong, but consistent player, got to win on the surprise best player. But yeah, so I think I have B-Bats at third. Second, Sofilo, what happened? CEO was crazy. Won without dropping a set in the most stacked event. Not the biggest, but the most stacked. Like, there was at least top heavy. 2 Cake wins and a Marlin win. You can just stop there, but it doesn't. You have 2 Ion wins, 4 Elkies wins, Cheesy Potato, Caro, Potatoes, Ham Yojo, which Ham Polo and Ham Yojo are different players. That's confusing, but whatever. Very good. Very, very good. One of the best seasons of like anyone. I mean, a similar Plup-esque run. Yeah, pretty identical to Plup. 2 Cake wins, Marlin, Ion, and Elkies. Like, I guess Ion and Elkies might have been. I think they're all. Were they West Coast? I'm not sure. Getting everyone's regions mixed up is tough. But a Plup-esque run. very, very good. Not quite as big as Genesis in terms of being stacked, but I think a more developed meta. It's a few months later, and did the best you could at that event. You won from winners. There's nothing you can argue with that. But Plup only entered Genesis while uh, while Sofilo had a lot of other events as well. There's a lot of losses here. A lot of losses. I mentioned that like Mystery Soul, Ion, Elkies like took a lot of sets off of Sofilo. And that doesn't take away from beating two of the best players in the world, one of them multiple times, winning an event from winners. Like that's still very, very good, but you can't ignore that. So I think that like that doesn't make like B-Bats got the one win instead of the three, but was way more consistent. Sofilo had those three really good wins alongside of a bunch of other ones, but I mean it was all over the place. Like there was, and maybe they just really put their head down and valued working hard and making sure they got practice. Big props there. But I don't know. Like I think there's an argument for Sofilo being number one, but with so many losses in region, it doesn't look as strong. I mean, Cake didn't really have much opportunity. Attended a bunch, won most of everything pretty handily that they attended, but didn't really have much opportunity to do better. And I think that's where like should have one CEO to prove that Cake's the best player, but didn't. But still had two B-Bats wins. Still like when B-Bats won a set, kind of like with Rongunshu and Marlin, Cake still locked in and won. CEO different story though. Still has two Stanga wins, two BC wins. Lucius, Ion twice, Elkies, Ant. So Ant had that Marlin win, but Cake did end up beating Ant. I believe Ant got fifth there. Multiple Hyperflame wins, Dakpo. Still a very strong report card. Only lost to the people in this tier, B-Bats and Sofilo. So I think that Cake has, for this season, I would maybe consider Cake to be higher, but Sofilo, like, that's really good. And maybe that's why rankings are longer. This is kind of why I'm having a tier list, to where I consider these three, Cake and the two players that beat Cake, to be in the top three. Yeah, I think that's really interesting to see. Having some fresh faces up here. I mean, the meta's in an interesting place right now. A lot of people are able to do well, and that's not even getting into Gommel, which just happened a few days ago. That was crazy. But I'll go over that with the next quarter videos. Maybe something else a little bit sooner. But I'm going to try and put a top 50 together. Here it is. It was... Oops. Try to get some pictures and all that. Trying to get the character icons and stuff. This is tough. Just like my other videos, the rankings and stuff. I think Cake being number one is pretty easy. I would consider the only S tier player in both seasons. I think that Marlin has enough to still be number two. Plup, again, only has that one tournament. So if you're having a Plup-esque run, but has a lot of losses besides that. It's tough, because like they don't have, Plup has no losses, 0 losses. So if you go by win percentage, Plup is number one easy. I don't think that's really fair. I think that like you should have to win more. You don't just win once and say, okay, I'm champion. Like there's a season, there's a a long stretch of time where you should try as much as possible to keep winning. And I believe Plup is attending Evo, the Rivals side event, which still could be super stacked. I think just because it's not one of the main 8 or 9 Evo games does not mean in the slightest that it's like not going to be stacked. I mean, there's like, I think one time there's like a Project M event. I mean, at a Evo that was really stacked. There was like some doubles events. Like there's other stuff like that where Evo brings people together, and if they're already there for a different game or just want to hang out in Vegas with a huge, I mean, Evo as a spectator experience is got to be awesome. Uh, so yeah, I am curious to see how Plup and Sofilo will kind of mess with the Cake and Marlin show, which end of Rivals 1 and beginning of Rivals 2 has mostly been. Something's getting in the way of that. In terms of consistency, Cake has not been as consistent, but still doing really good, winning most of what he attends. Yeah, Pluff and Sofilo, I really want to see them again. Really, really cool to see them. Like, obviously, we know Plup. Another Genesis winner for Melee. Sofilo, not really as known. So, crazy, crazy run as CEO. Huge congrats. I think good enough for number 4. Stango, Beastly, Spargo. These are some of the consistent players. Stango and Beastly has slightly better wins overall, but Spargo is still really consistent. And B-Bats, a pretty rough first 3 months, but a strong second 3 months. I could see maybe even being above Spargo. But I think Spargo probably was more consistent. It is tough. Elkies and ZB being some, Elkies getting some of the Sofilo wins, ZB being a strong player. I think that kind of rounds it out. Boyko only really had, I believe it was Let's Make Big Moves. So might be a little high. Switch did well. Toothbrush / Max, whatever you call him, does have that Cake win, but another inconsistent player with that good win. So I don't know. Ron Gunshoe has a Marlin win. Ant has a Marlin win. It's tough. It was kind of just like, okay, because how you like compare certain wins can influence everything else. I think a lot of these players are super close, and there's not a ton to go off of because there's not that many Rivals events that get like a ton of stacked players. It's more like Melee than Ultimate in terms of like, okay, here's like some top tier. Like yeah, you have your Florida, you have your tri-state in region stuff where people are so close and proximity helps. But I mean, Midwest and Pacific Northwest and Southwest, like, and even just like central, like Heartland area, like there's a lot of people that are spread out, and it's hard to entirely figure out how people stack up. I mean, Lucius, I still have pretty high up, even though didn't do as well as we've seen from them in the past. Still did pretty good. Just because you're a favorite does not mean that it's a bad thing, like, for you to be there. You're still trying to win. Mars and Void, I think, are, you know, they attend occasionally and do all right. I think there's a lot of players that are grinding events and trying to consistently attend. I give a lot of props. Shouts Iota had that really good Pitfall run, enough to keep them in the top 20. Full Stream, the original Rivals 1 GOAT, really strong beginning career there. Had a solid Genesis run. I think it's like, okay, if you do really well, same with Asashi. I think luck too. If you do really well at an event, like, it's not a bad thing. It's not like based on this ranking, I'm not really having an attendance requirement. I think it's a good thing to have that, but sometimes you might be missing if there's not much attendance. consistently. I mean, a lot of these players are being out of pocket. Like it's tough. Offline esports without financial backing for the players is tough. But there's a I mean there's a lot of cool crossovers on this list. I'll finish it out down here. Got Mr. R and Soul Rifle and a few others here and there. Yeah, I think this is a pretty healthy competitive like community right now. Gommel obviously shook things up a lot. And we have Evo coming up, Supernova. This next quarter has the potential to be like probably the. I mean, with Gauntlet already happens, we know for a fact it's very impactful. I think it might be the most stacked in terms of like how many events. Like, yeah, we've had Genesis quarter one. Yeah, we had CEO quarter two. Also had Combo Breaker. Also had a few other events that were like Smash Camp and Patchwork and all that. That had like some players, but like I think there's gonna be a lot more crossover. And then like I mentioned, like Ants and Sofilo at the very end of June having a crazy run at CEO really shook things up, and I want to see how both. I know Sofilo kind of was the main focus, but Ant kind of came out of nowhere as well. I think both of them could really shake things up. Some other players I haven't attended much. Maybe they'll. A lot of people maybe more West Coast, and a lot of these events have been East Coast. With you have like Midwest and East Coast type of stuff with Florida, North Carolina, etc. I think that there's a lot of potential, and it's going to be cool. I again personally, I think Rivals One was really clean as to like watching it, but you can't deny that Rivals Two, like the storylines behind it, it's really cool. Like looking at that Gauntlet bracket was like, dude, this is crazy. Like there's this random person I don't know who just beat a 15-year veteran of platform fighters. It's just like, dang, all right, like it's wild, and with some familiar faces for sure. But yeah, it's cool stuff. I am really excited to keep paying attention, and yeah, I'll probably make another video about Rivals 2. I might have a Supernova kind of like overview type thing later to kind of just get a preview. But yeah, I encourage you keep watching. There's a lot of cool stuff, and yeah, if you have any ideas for something you want to see, don't be afraid to leave in the comments. Please subscribe. Trying to reach a certain milestone. Trying to get to like 500 subscribers soon to try and kind of help the future of this channel. But yeah, thanks for watching and have a great day.